Wrestlebread podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 104 of the Wrestlebread podcast. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not watch a lot of wrestling this week, but I did catch a lot. I did read up on like some recaps of what happened between Raw, NXT, and Dynamite, and I also read up on some news and rumors and things like that. But I'm going to be doing a predictions on what's happening at Fastlane, so this will be a bit of a shorter episode as well. Normally, I mentioned that I'm streaming live, but this week I am streaming live, but I'm streaming a lot later than what I normally would be, and that's because I'm slowly phasing out of streaming live, and I will be doing more video episodes of the podcast as well. So you can still catch the podcast audio through Spotify, um, Google Music, and any Apple as well, and any other place that you listen to your podcast. But I'm also going to be slowly doing some videos as well. I plan to do a video of the episodes when I'm doing my predictions and my recaps as well. And I may be doing like other videos as well, maybe doing recaps of past pay-per-views and things like that. When I be doing a little bit of the specials when it comes up to the big events as well. So I'll more likely be doing something as far as with WrestleMania. I still don't know what I'm going to do. Last year, I went through all the WrestleManias. I talked about one match from every WrestleMania. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do this time around. I don't know if I'm going to do. I should do like worst WrestleMania matches of all time and just go through them and probably like torture the hell out of myself by watching those matches. But I will definitely let you know. So going into this week, we have Fastlane, which you probably didn't even realize there's an actual pay per view coming because, um, you know, WWE doesn't really do that good of a job as far as these go home shows. Um, I watched a little bit of Raw live. It was a slight of a mess. Um, I watched NXT. They're slowly building up to um, NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver. We have AEW as well. That is, they just had their episode of Dynamite where the main event was the women's match for the it was a lights out unsanctioned match, and it was mainly a big hardcore match, and it was the main event of Dynamite, which I've seen clips of it. It was a pretty good match. Both women did an awesome job, definitely putting their bodies out there with the thumbtacks and the ladders and the chairs and things like that. Britt Baker with the crimson mask that she was sporting, but kudos to them. Um, Definitely put on the type of match that we normally don't see from women. A very different style, which I completely appreciate. That we can enjoy a very good hardcore match whether you're a man or a woman. Um, but let me get into some current events. So first off, I checked out Coming to America, the sequel of the original Coming to America, and quite honestly, I give it a 5 out of 10. And I know that you know some people liked it, some people didn't like it. For me, I watched the original. Of course, I didn't watch when it came out because I was like 4 or 5 years old. But I watched it maybe like 15 years after it came out. And it was definitely a special movie. And a lot of people had expectations with this. I knew that I went into this with not exactly high expectations. The thing is, with a lot of these sequels where there's a big gap of time between part one and part two, um, movies from the early 80s and the 90s, a lot of the jokes and the type of things in those movies you wouldn't be able to do today. So I knew going into watching the second movie that, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I knew going into the second movie that it wasn't going to be as funny as the original because you can't really make so many jokes like they did in the original. The first part of the movie was pretty funny. Wesley Snipes was like awesome in this movie. That's why I gave it a 5 instead of a lower score. The ending was pretty cool with a lot of the cameos that they had going on. But as far as like the plot and stuff like that, I didn't like it at all. And I was just sitting there like, whatever. The writing could definitely have been a lot better. It just felt like it missed the essence of the first movie. And it's not always like the sequels are always bad, because I look at like Friday and Next Friday and Friday After Next, and all of them were pretty funny. And it's because it kind of kept the essence of the movie. If you feel differently, that's your opinion. But for me, I gave it a 5 out of 10. It was funny. It had a lot of comedians in it, but the thing is, when you have a lot of comedians, there are comedians that are pretty funny when they're able to be, to kind of like ad-lib and things like that. And I think that's what the first movie really did well. Because if I remember correctly, there was a lot of ad-libbing in the first movie. In the second movie, it doesn't feel like it was ad-libbing, and it was like kind of like more closer to whatever it was that was written. And some comedians aren't funny when they stick to lines, or if it's lines that was written by someone else, it doesn't come off as genuine. So, that's my opinion. If you want to watch it, you're all well to watch it. We also got Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up this week that I'll be checking out as well. I should do like some type of reaction videos or something like that. I don't know. But I'm a bit of a nerd, so all I do is pretty much watch, Marvel or DC and stuff like that. I want to check out the Snyder cut of the Justice League, but I was going to do a trick and, wait till they all come out and then get HBO Max for free with that trial, and then like binge watch the four movies and then cancel my subscription. But then I found out that you actually have to pay in order to see it. So now I'm trying to, wiggle my way of watching it for free. Sorry, not sorry. But getting into wrestling, some rumors that we had going on. There was a rumor that Andrade had asked for his release, that he wanted to be released from WWE. And there was another rumor that on top of that WWE did not grant his release. Well, actually, Andrade had actually tweeted out today, the 18th, if I'm not mistaken. It was earlier this morning. He tweeted out that the rumors are true. He did ask for his release. He wants to have the chance to make his dreams come true, and he thanked everyone for their support. I kind of figured that, it's going to happen eventually, that either he would ask for his release or he would be released, because we haven't seen him for a while, especially once Zelina Vega was let go by WWE. I knew that it kind of spelled trouble for Angel Garza and for Andrade. And some people was like, oh, he's the fiance of Charlotte, this, that, and the third. WWE don't care. I mean, I kind of figured they wouldn't care anyway, because they, Charlotte is, I'm sure, very respected, but I don't think that she can do much to help out her fiance, unfortunately. I think he would be better suited outside of WWE. I believed he was working with a Mexican wrestling promotion before he went to NXT. And this just goes to show that, I know a lot of people are like, oh, NXT should be a third brand. No, NXT should be exactly the way it is. If it becomes a third brand, it'll become another Raw or SmackDown. And then we'll all be crying about the talent that's on NXT that aren't being treated correctly. I think NXT should be its own brand, first off, but I think NXT should be able to have the flexibility of having people from Raw or SmackDown to come down to, come down, quote unquote, to NXT and be able to like freshen up their careers, stuff like that. I mean, we see what happened with Finn Balor. Finn Balor started out in NXT, went up to the main roster, got injured, came back. It really wasn't much that they, was doing with him. And then he came back to NXT and, he turned heel. And it's like, a breath of fresh air. And so it's just really a shame that, the quote unquote developmental brand is really, can really help a wrestler like fall in love with wrestling again. And it's a bit sad, truthfully, because you want to go up to the big leagues, quote unquote, but then you're realizing, what you fell in love as far as with wrestling when you were in NXT is suddenly taken away from you in WWE. WWE is also now officially on Peacock. You can go on there. I have it. I have the app because I plan to, get my WWE subscription on there. I think my subscription actually ended a few days ago. But I was going to wait until like the day before. I was going to wait to the day before Fastlane to actually start my subscription. So I would get my 30 days for free and I'll get Fastlane and WrestleMania. I really sound like a cheapskate, really getting these free trials and not really paying for pay-per-views and stuff like that. I'm really sounding like a cheapskate, and I'm not. I'm not. I pay for things, but I don't know when it comes to wrestling and movies and stuff like that. I feel like if it's out there for free, why pay? The internet is so expansive that you can look up and find anything on the internet. So why pay? That's just my opinion. But I do want the WWE network so I can go in and watch different pay-per-views whenever I want and not have to like look for different streams and stuff like that, or have to like find a YouTube channel that actually will have full matches that I'm looking for. Also, we have a new inductee in the WWE Hall of Fame for 2021, and it's Eric Bischoff. So, hey, the guy who was trying to take down WWE back in the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And we're back, of course, back to the when is such and such going to be inducted. We have Davey Boy Smith, who is now finally being inducted. I'm still waiting on China. It's a matter of time that Undertaker will be inducted. I'm slightly hoping it's not this year because I do not plan to be at WrestleMania this year. And I would love to be at the WrestleMania where he is being inducted into the Hall of Fame, because I'm sure he's going to show up at the Raw after Mania. And I would like to be at the Hall of Fame ceremony if they're going to have fans there. So I'm kind of hoping he's not going to this year's Hall of Fame. And I figured I'm planning to go to the LA Mania because, I never been to the West Coast, never been to LA, never been on an airplane for that long. I mean, the longest airplane ride I had so far is like 2.5 hours. So, I have an interest of going to LA. So I figured, go to LA and enjoy WrestleMania. But I have a feeling that he might get inducted to next year's Hall of Fame because it's in Texas. And I'm like, damn, I want to go to Dallas too. I mean, I'm a Dallas fan, so I would love to go to the AT&T Stadium. But I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a lot more you can do in LA versus what you can do in Dallas. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like there's a lot more that I can do in LA, and I'm not there just for WrestleMania, but to visit the city like I did when I went to New Orleans. When I went to New Orleans, I visited New Orleans. I explored the city, went down Bourbon Street and stuff like that, enjoyed the food. And so I just kind of want to do that with LA Media. Speaking of WrestleMania, tickets go on sale on Friday. That's Friday the 19th. WWE really didn't explain why they pushed the date back. The rumor is that they pushed the date back because there was a possibility that they can get more people in the stadium. it's a rumor that they were looking for full capacity, which will be absolutely crazy to try to do right now. But it looks like they were trying to increase it from 25,000 to 45,000. But it seems like now the actual thing is that it's going to be 25,000 people. I mean, I kind of figure if, if we get like maybe 2 weeks before or something like that, and they decide to add more people, they can always just sell more tickets. Just make the announcement, sell tickets. People are social distancing, working from home, stuff like that. I'm sure that um, if they want, they can just, go to WrestleMania. Plus, money's a bit tight. But, WWE's probably trying to take advantage of the stimulus stuff. So, who knows? Kylie Rae is back, and she is booked for a wrestling event. It's on June 5th at Warrior Wrestling Stadium Series show. She's actually the current defending women's champion over there, so there's no word at who's her opponent is going to be. But I'm very happy that Kylie Rae is back. I really hope that she is mentally well. The first time that she stepped away from wrestling was in 2019 after she appeared in AEW, and then she stepped away from wrestling again about within the past year as well. And I'm just really hoping that she's just mentally well. Wrestling will always be there. Your mental health and your life, that is most priority as well. So, getting into a little bit of what happened this week. Now, I'm not going to go through the show. I'm only going to talk about 2 things from each show. So I apologize that it's going to be a very short recap of the weekly shows. But like I said, I didn't really watch it. So first of all, the thing that I saw on Raw, it looks like someone showed Vince McMahon the Nickelodeon football game from a couple of months ago, because now we got slime on Raw. So Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman are now beefing. Braun Strowman got Shane McMahon with, I think he's in his 50s, mid 50s at this point, jumping off the top rope to do a elbow drop on Braun Strowman, who was on the announcer's table. And I really don't like the camera that, the little action camera they try to do in WWE, because you couldn't even tell if he actually hit Braun Strowman or not, because the camera immediately went right into the table right at the impact. And so, bless Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon's trying to jump off that pirate ship at WrestleMania. I'm hoping that Kevin Owens will have that chance, but I don't know what they're going to do with Kevin Owens. He might end up in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale for all we know, because it really don't seem like they have anything for him to do. But afterwards, we see Shane McMahon pick up a bucket, and he dumped the contents of the bucket on Braun Strowman's head, and it was very bright green slime. And I don't know why this bucket was sitting ringside. If Shane just happened to pick up the bucket and had the slime in it, or he actually got someone to collect slime. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, what is this? I don't know who's supposed to be the heel or who's supposed to be the face. I mean, they had Shane McMahon cut that awful promo that he did last week so that we can not like him more. But I'm not really the biggest fan of Braun Strowman. I don't feel bad for Braun Strowman. He's coming off like a goofball, sitting there saying the wrong things, and how trying to get into a match where there were former WWE champions, and he's saying he's a former Universal champion. And it just feels like the moment for him was back when he was feuding with Roman Reigns. And they didn't, pull the plug. They didn't, push him at that point, and it's just been, just him doing the same old, same old. But I'm just confused at this feud because, Shane McMahon was able to take down the monster of men. Wasn't really that hard, truthfully, and dumped slime on him. And I'm like, this is the same guy that was like, flipping trucks and ambulances, like carrying houses on his back and stuff like that. Like they were really trying to push of how strong of a guy he is. And now the best that we have for him to do at WrestleMania is to go against Shane McMahon. Like if Shane McMahon wins and he beats the monster of men, quote unquote. And then Shane McMahon will be gone. Probably until SummerSlam, or we'll see him right back around WrestleMania time again. And then if Braun Strowman beats Shane McMahon, It really isn't like anything that'll make, to really make him feel more powerful. He beats Shane McMahon. He beats an old guy. So this match was originally announced on Raw to be featured on Fastlane, which really didn't make any sense because this is obviously a setup for WrestleMania. And if they were going to face each other at Fastlane, well, it's obviously not going to have a clean finish. But it looks like it just quietly, got pulled. It's not listed on the list of matches for Fastlane right now. Whether they decide to change their mind and add it back on there is a different story. Also, the New Day are champions again. And I find that kind of weird because I was hoping that the Hurt Business will be champs going into WrestleMania so that, the Hurt Business is more solidified as like, legit threat, like on top of the game. They have almost all the titles on Raw. So I was just a little surprised that the New Day are champions again. I guess, I don't know if this is for the New Day to go into WrestleMania and, the Hurt Business get the titles back or something like that, or if they're going to start something new, which it probably more likely will be that they're going to start something new, that they are trying to entice as many people as they can to, get subscribe to Peacock so that, they can get the numbers up. And they're probably going to, do this by having the New Day being champions again versus the Hurt Business. With NXT, I see that Jordan Devlin is back. He had cut a promo last week, and I honestly didn't recognize him. I completely forgot what he looked like, and I'm sitting there looking at him, and I'm like, who the hell is this person? And then it hit me. I'm like, oh, it's Devlin. I'm so happy that he is back. He came back to NXT this week, and of course now it's Santos Escobar versus Jordan. Both have their cruiserweight championship. Jordan never lost it. It was all because of the pandemic. He couldn't leave the country, and now he's back, and I'm fine. I'm excited for that matchup. I think that's going to be a pretty good match. Another return is we got Walter. Walter is in NXT. Not NXT UK, but the US NXT. So now Imperium is all in NXT, and I am all ready for that. Of course, we have the setup of Karrion Kross versus Finn Balor, which will definitely be a fun match. I have Karrion Kross winning that match to get the title that he never lost back as well. Going into AEW Dynamite, MJF's crew has a name. They are called the Pinnacle. So we're not calling them MJF's Horsemen or MJF's Inner Circle or MJF's crew or anything like that. I'm slightly interested on what will become of this crew. Like I said, AEW loves their tag teams. They love grouping people together. If you're not in a tag team, a trios, or a stable, then you're by yourself. It, like I said, it feels like high school. Everybody is either in a clique or they're coupled. It's that simple. The AEW just, they're saying there's like, I'm trying to think of a actual singles competitor besides Christian Cage, because he just came in. He'll eventually find his way to either be partnered up with someone or he'll have a manager. Like, it's not that many wrestlers in AEW that is not in a tag team, a trios, a stable, or without a manager. Thunder Rosa is one of them. Like I said, it's not that many. Thunder Rosa is one that I thought of on the top of my head. Who else? I mean, Britt Baker has Rebel. I really can't think of one right now. If you think of one, just put in the comments for me. Or you can tweet me at Jaydee Talks and just start firing off AEW competitors who do not have a stable. I mean, you could probably say Hangman Page, but he's like starting to be cool with the Dark Order. So, you know, there's that. Can't say Kenny Omega because he has Don Callis. John Moxley, he's one too, but it's not that many competitors. You probably can like, it's probably less than 10, maybe less than 7. I'd be bold and say that, of competitors that wrestles on AEW Dynamite. Because if we go to people who are on AEW Dark or Evolution or whatever the new show is called, we could probably find more. But people who are on AEW, who wrestles on AEW Dynamite frequently, who are singles competitor, probably not that many. And like I said, the women's main event was pretty fun. Britt Baker getting slammed into thumbtacks. Not only slammed into thumbtacks, was actually covered. Thunder Rosa went for a pin while she was on thumbtacks. And goodness gracious. Very good match. I saw news that the ratings went down and people were trying to pin it, the fact that it was a women's main event. Like, no, it's probably because people may have gotten frustrated the fact that they felt a bit cheated, that they paid $50 or $50 for a pay-per-view, having high expectations for a big signing and this crazy exploding barbed wire death match, and they really didn't, it didn't end with a bang. And AEW Dynamite still is trying to explain away, you know, what happened, that, you know, even Tony Khan got involved. And I don't know if this, I think this was on AEW Dark, Tony Khan cutting a promo, quote unquote, because that wasn't really a promo, telling Kenny Omega that he's going to be in a match on Wednesday. And I don't really know how to feel about Tony Khan. I thought he would be the owner that would kind of be like behind the scenes. Like, I appreciate the fact where he does the pressers and stuff like that, and he talks about like matches, stuff like that. Because I listened to him when he was on the AEW podcast, and I was listening to him talk, and he was talking as if he was like Dana White. Like, he was talking, he was keeping it within the storyline, but it was like he was talking like it was like an actual like fight that was going on, like he was a promoter, which I respect. But now he's starting to get involved in storylines, and I don't know how to really feel about that. Because if you're trying to be like the non-biased promoter and be able to like talk about fights and say, yeah, you know, this person is a lot tougher than this person, I think this is going to be a good match type of situation. Well, now you're involving yourself in storylines. So now you're trying to talk about storylines as if it's a storyline, but you're involved in the storyline. It's going to come across like, not really not genuine, but it's going to be a little confusing. So I don't know where this is going to go as far as him inserting himself in Kenny Omega's storyline. But I guess we'll see what happens from there. Another thing too is that Christian Cage has challenged Kenny Omega for the AEW championship. And my thing is, AEW loves to shoot people immediately to the moon when they come into AEW. They did it with Brian Cage. They've done it with others as well. Like, soon as they enter into AEW, they immediately go after the title. I disagree with Christian immediately going after the title, because once you go after the title and you immediately lose, then it's like, where you go from there? Like, you're already at the top of the mountain. You're going to tumble all the way down to the bottom. And then now it's the whole, kind of find something for you to do. I mean, with Brian Cage, and it seems like now he may be moving away from Taz, but he, immediately got shot up to the moon, had the FTW title, and he's pretty much carrying it around like it's a handbag or something. Like it's an accessory. Whereas though, when Taz was in ECW, he had the FTW title, it like actually meant a lot more. Like, it was a legitimate like world title that he treated it as. And so my thing is I don't think Christian Cage should be going after the AEW championship, especially the fact that we still kind of have this storyline with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, especially what happened after the death match. We definitely left it open for Jon Moxley to go after Kenny Omega there. I said that Christian Cage should have turned heel. That would definitely have been a lot different than what we have seen him as in WWE. It's been a very long time since he has been a heel. So I think it would have been cool that instead of challenging Kenny Omega, that he actually would have joined Kenny Omega. Now, it might not make sense because he wasn't part of the Bullet Club or anything like that, but maybe along the lines of Don Callis kind of like recruiting Christian over and saying like, I talked to Christian about, working with the best in the world, this, that, and the third. Like, I felt as though there was a way that they could spin it that he would have joined. Or he could have simply, I don't know, he could have simply had a feud somewhere else. Like, someone could have easily like interrupted him or something like that, and we could have gone from there. But for him to go immediately after the title, and it seems like he's still kind of the same person that he was in WWE. That's another gripe of mine, that not to have the same exact gimmick that you had in WWE, because all it's going to turn out is we'll be watching pretty much who you are in WWE, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I feel as though it works for someone like Jon Moxley, because I think Jon Moxley is who he was trying to be in WWE as Dean Ambrose, but there was limitations to who he can be as Dean Ambrose, and I think that's what we're getting now with Jon Moxley. Dean Ambrose and Jon Moxley are two different people. I mean, sometimes they have like the same things, like he does that shoulder thing that he does when he walks. Like his mannerisms are sometimes the same. I mean, kind of sounds the same, I guess I could say. But it feels like two totally different gimmicks, and that works. I just think with AEW, for them to be able to separate themselves from WWE and not feel like they are an extension of WWE, is to just simply, when someone from WWE comes over, to like completely change the gimmick. Don't keep it the same. Don't give us like the same exact gimmick, because that's not going to work. It's going to feel like I said, WCW 2.0 or AEW, it's the NXT of NXT as well. But, I like both promotions. I really hope they both do well. That WWE will eventually get their shit together and develop better storylines and allow a more creative freedom. That was the biggest thing that I loved about the Attitude Era, was the creative freedom. That people had control of their gimmicks, and it was a lot more trust with the promos and what they can do. And so from there, it was like a lot more genuine gimmicks. It was like believable characters. I mean, some things were like not as believable, like, The Rock being, well, not really The Rock, but like there were some gimmicks that, okay, it wasn't believable, like The Undertaker, I guess I should say. But, it was relatable things, like especially with Stone Cold. Stone Cold was the person who you wish you can be in the workplace. The Rock is the person, that you wish you could be if you had all the confidence in the world. Triple H was the person who's in your head when you look at yourself in the mirror sometimes, and you like, if you had the body or something like that, and the badass and stuff like that. And that's what I really liked about the Attitude Era, is that it was a lot of creative freedom, and, gimmicks were relatable. It was actually like genuine people. Like I said, with Roman Reigns, what we're getting right now, like, if like it's believable for someone, especially who comes from a heritage where family is everything, to sit there and be like, yo, you, like, we hear it in the streets, yo, you disrespecting my family, you disrespecting me, you disrespecting my family, let me beat your ass type of situation. And now we're kind of getting that with Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews is the real African American. Last Friday, he came out with people as well. He still kind of has the accent. I don't know why we're doing that. It's the reverse Kofi Kingston. All this time, he didn't have an accent. Now, all of a sudden, because he realized his ancestors, and he was sitting there with Roman Reigns that won SmackDown. All of a sudden, he has an accent. But, we'll keep it going. Someone obviously showed Vince McMahon either Black Panther or Avengers Civil War or something like that. Now all of a sudden now all of a sudden Apollo Crews has an accent. So getting into this week's pay-per-view, we have Fastlane, and as of right now there's only 5 matches announced, because we know that WWE is very famous for creating matches the day of. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be a match that will be on the pre-show. I'm sure we might get a few more matches as well. But as of right now, this is what we have. So starting off, for the Women's Tag Team Championship, we have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler with Reginald going against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. I'm actually going to go with the champions to retain. Obviously, we are waiting for Sasha Banks to do the turn and become the heel that we all love to see. I think maybe Reginald may have something to do with it. The fact that he is, connected with Nia Jax, that maybe it will be him that will do something to help Sasha Banks win. But not really win, but he's going to do something and they're going to win. I don't know. He's going to do something. I know he's going to be involved in some way because he likes Sasha Banks, but Sasha Banks turned him down, and now he's with Nia Jax. So I think that he's going to do something to try to get back with Sasha Banks, and I think that will lead to Sasha Banks turning heel. That's why I think it is. But I think Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are going to remain champions. I feel that they're going to lose their title at WrestleMania. It would make no sense for Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair to win these titles because they're going against each other at WrestleMania. So if they win these titles, I mean, it's literally like 2 weeks for them to drop the titles. Because there's no way that they're going to be tag team champions and then go into WrestleMania to face each other. Next up, singles match for the WWE Universal Championship. We have Roman Reigns going against Daniel Bryan. Now, on SmackDown this week, we're going to have a match between Edge and Jey Uso, and the winner of that match will become the special guest enforcer. I'm going to say that Edge wins this match, and that way we can start that whole dynamic of Edge and Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. And I'm a little confused because there are a lot of people who are pretty upset that Daniel Bryan is involved in this match. And I'm confused because I remember a whole group of people who was like so down for Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble, which means he would be facing Roman Reigns for the championship at WrestleMania anyway. And people are like, well, he already had his chance, things like that. All three of them had their chance. Edge had his chance. I mean, it's been a lot longer than Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's chance was 7 years ago at WrestleMania 30. Edge had his chance, I believe it's 11 years ago that he won the Royal Rumble, and I think that was the last time that he main evented WrestleMania. I could be wrong. And then Roman Reigns, he had the longest damn push of main events at WrestleMania. So all three of them have their shots. So if this turns out to be a triple threat, more of the power. I don't know how they're going to do the dynamic as far as, Roman Reigns with the whole disrespecting my family. And yeah, it could be cooler if it was Roman Reigns and just Edge. But if Daniel Bryan gets added to this match, I won't be mad at all. But I think that Edge is going to be the special guest enforcer. And we're going to get a little bit more of a dynamic between these three guys. After that, for the Intercontinental Championship, we have Big E versus Apollo Crews, the real African American. And my cat is trying to be a special guest host on this podcast. She's meowing for no reason. Sometimes she just meows because it's late at night. It is very late at night while I'm recording this. And this is when she starts tripping and starts making noise, starts running around back and forth. And that's why I don't really like to record at night, because she likes to get some type of attention. But back to my prediction. We have Big E versus Apollo Crews. I'm actually going to go with Apollo Crews here. It will make zero sense that we had this whole transformation of Apollo Crews, and for him to, turn into this real African American, realize his ancestors from Nigeria and stuff like that, and walk around with the spear and the two guys, his two guards, and the accent, stuff like that, just for him to not win and not even get the title. So I think that Apollo Crews is going to win the match here, and he's going to get the title, and then, his persona and his ego is going to blow up tenfold. He might get carried to the ring or some crap like that. Who knows? But I'm going to go to Apollo Crews here. For the previous match, I realized I didn't say who I thought was going to win. Roman Reigns obviously is going to retain his title. He more likely may drop the title at WrestleMania, but I don't know how that's going to play out with his persona if he drops the title, if he is either going to move on to a different feud, or if he's going to try to get a rematch afterwards. After that, this is an actual singles match, Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. Now, I'm just confused as to why we got this match so many times on Raw. I feel like we're doing the whole Sheamus and Cesaro when we had the best of 7. That's what it's starting to feel like. But I don't understand why we couldn't wait until we got the Fastlane to have this match and just use the past Raws to build up this feud. Because this could have been definitely an entertaining feud to build. I mean, like I said, like I always say, it's two best friends. They've known each other for a while. They definitely could have built up, a feud with promos and tacking from behind and stuff like that. But instead, they decided to just have the match on Raw for free that one time. And then they had another match on Raw. And now we're kind of getting this match. And so, I don't know, I don't know what will go from here. More likely, this feels like this is going to be the last match of the feud. This we could be setting up with Bobby Lashley either interfering or possibly The Miz interfering, and this could lead to the Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania, because it looks like that's what we're getting as well. Bobby Lashley, as of right now, don't have a match. Well, no, not as right now, because his Raw had already passed. So he's not going to be on Fastlane. So more likely he'll appear at Fastlane to kind of like interfere or to kind of watch the Drew McIntyre match. And then the last match is a very interesting one. Something that WWE doesn't do, and that's an intergender match. I don't remember the last time we had a legit intergender match. I mean, normally we have the man and woman team up as tag team partners, but as soon as the woman tags in, the woman on the other team have to enter in. And sometimes we'll get a woman attacking a man, but it's very rare that we get a man attack a woman. My prediction is that we won't get to this match. If we get to an actual match and it lasts longer than 5 minutes, I will be completely surprised. But we all know what's happening here. We are going to get the return of The Fiend. He might have a different face mask. He may have a completely different look. Probably will look a lot more dynamic. And I can't wait for that. I like what Bray Wyatt has done as far as, with The Fiend. Yeah, The Fiend has had some terrible matches. I'm looking at you, Goldberg. I'm looking at you, Braun Strowman. Not so great feuds. I'm also looking at you, Seth Rollins. Wow, I completely forgot about that. Definitely looking at you, Seth Rollins. And we all know that this is the return of The Fiend. And I'm hoping that it will be a lot more exciting than the end of the exploding barbed wire death match, and that the match will end with a very cool reveal, because I like the mask that The Fiend already has. So I'm hoping that whatever mask this is going to be, I mean, the mask is from the legit Tom Savini. So I'm hoping whatever the next match is going to be, it's going to look even more crazier and scarier. Maybe it'll be some type of reflection of the fact that he was set on fire. Maybe some type of Harvey Dent type of look or something like that. I don't know. And I can't wait to see it. I like the fact that The Fiend isn't on every single pay-per-view. He's not being overused like that we're getting a little bit of Bray Wyatt. Is definitely very Undertaker-like. When Undertaker used to disappear and he'll play the mind games and stuff like that, that is pretty much what we're getting in 2021. But overall, I think, with Fastlane, with Fastlane especially, Fastlane normally isn't the most exciting pay-per-view, so I really don't expect this to... I mean, on paper, this should be a good pay-per-view. I'll say that. We have Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. That should be a good match. We have Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. That should be a good match. We will have the return of The Fiend. We will have Big E versus Apollo Crews. The WWE Women's Tag Team match should be very interesting. I don't know what we're going to do with the Raw Women's Championship. She has returned, so it seems like she is 100% healthy. So I don't know what we're doing with the Women's Championship, but I kind of figure what's going to happen. It's going to be dropped at WrestleMania to Charlotte. And, I can't deny Charlotte has a lot of talent and things like that. I just don't like the booking that they do with her. They book her so strong and they concentrate all the creative ideas and like put so much attention on her that all the women on the whatever it's Raw or SmackDown kind of gets overlooked. And that's what happened with the champion. Granted, Asuka got her teeth knocked out, which was crazy. And she has suffered concussion. But even before that, Asuka didn't get that much attention. And a lot of the other women on Raw didn't get that much attention either. And there was people who even thought that Shayna Baszler like did it on purpose. Like obviously it was a mistake. People were saying that Nia Jax was rubbing off on Shayna Baszler, and it's like obviously it was a mistake. If you watch back after she kicked her teeth out, you can see she tried to check on her without like, really breaking kayfabe. And of course, she's going to cut a promo saying that she did it on purpose. I mean, she's a heel. That's what heel does. But I don't remember the last time that Shayna Baszler, like, harmed someone or did a botch or not really a botch because she botched before. But to, like, actually harm someone, I don't remember the last time that happened. But I think we're going to get maybe at least 2 more matches to this pay-per-view. Definitely something on the pre-show. They might throw something together here. We may get the U.S. title. I know that... and I don't know when we changed his name to Mustafa instead of Mustafa. I remember he was being called Mustafa Ali, but anyway... Ali was challenging Riddle for the U.S. Championship, so it looks like we're going to get that. Don't know what's happening with the SmackDown Championships. I mean, are they going to be defended anytime soon or what? We have that title out. Like I said, WWE Championship isn't really going to be defended, but I think Bobby Lashley will be there to kind of like interfere or do something in Drew McIntyre's match to kind of start the feud between them as well. Who knows when we'll get a Raw Championship match besides obviously WrestleMania as well. And, we'll see where we go with there. But normally Fastlane isn't really the most exciting pay-per-view that, blows things out of the park. But I think on paper, what we're looking at, this should be a pretty good show. It should actually be a pretty good show because this is the first show that's going to be on Peacock. So, WWE should probably do their damnness to make sure that they put on a good show for their first pay-per-view that's on the new app. So, but that's it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give some shout out to Julian Rob Bass from Wrestling Court Podcast on TurnOfMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Nando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. My guys over at Dirty Heels Podcast. Also, shout out to Straight Talk Wrestling Podcast as well, who actually did a very good interview with Mark Merrow. If you definitely, that is an episode you should definitely check out. It's not the most recent episode because I'm like a little behind on catching up on all the podcasts that I like to listen to. But that was a pretty good episode. He also interviewed the daughter of Davey Boy Smith as well. And that was a very touching interview of her talking about her dad and stuff like that. So definitely check them out as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Jaydee Talks. That's JAYDEE Talks. You can find the podcast as well on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your audio podcast as well. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to leave a comment if you're watching. Hopefully, it seems like I'm doing pretty good as far as trying to film this on YouTube. So if it's on YouTube, definitely look out for it. And leave a comment below of how you feel about Fastlane as well. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, guys, peace.